Hi, everyone. We're going to talk about philosophy and theories in education. Philosophy of education has a long history in Western philosophies tradition, as you will see as I highlight the next couple of philosophers. The ideals of these philosophers have long informed the education in the United States. And the idea that education involves the fostering of reason, which most of the philosophers I'm highlighting have embraced, continues to be defended by contemporary philosophers of education. The Western philosophical tradition began in ancient Greece, and philosophy of education began with it. These philosophers and theories of education that we're looking at do not highlight or represent any indigenous peoples' theories or philosophies, which they have. But our Western society education system is just now trying to embrace indigenous philosophies of education and child development. Right, so philosophy and theorists provide direction for teaching. It fosters critical thinking, informs curriculum development, promotes ethical considerations, enhances student engagement, and addresses societal issues. You'll see these throughout this presentation. It also facilitates meaningful dialogue. So the Pearsecology philosophy is built on the different philosophers and theories that I'm going to show you today. Why do we do what we do? And here's our philosophy. Oh, what in the heck did we get? Where in the heck did we get these wild ideas? Right? So what is the difference between a philosophy and a theory? Philosophy is very conceptual, beliefs based on theories and observations. Educational philosophy glues together pedagogy, curriculum, learning theory, and human development. Theory is practical. Theory answers the questions that arise from a philosophy. Educational theory seeks to answer more targeted questions. So here is Pierce College Education Department philosophical base. And you're going to see the different philosophers and theories that this philosophical base is built on. We believe that the family provides the child's most important learning environment. We offer education, involvement opportunities, and support for the entire family. We believe in providing an environment so that children and adults may develop their capabilities in the areas of physical, intellectual, emotional, and social growth. This is accomplished through a curriculum that emphasizes play and building self-esteem. We believe learning is lifelong, enjoyable, and a challenging experience. We believe in providing active and sensory experiences in which learning through discovery is emphasized. We believe in providing developmentally appropriate curriculum using an eclectic approach based upon maturation, developmental theories, including brain development, and research that stress common growth patterns. We believe that each person's individuality and culture must be respected. We believe that an education program should be based on a statement of philosophy, a set of beliefs which thoughtfully reflect the outlooks and goals of those who are responsible for the program. The statement is a continuing effort by the early childhood education staff at Pierce College. It is intended to be a working document, one which should be used as a framework in preparing curricula for the training of early childhood education students, as well as examining and improving the teacher-family relationship and goals with our lab school nursery program. So hopefully all that you're experiencing within this class is supported through this philosophical base. So we're beginning with Plato, who is a Greek philosopher from ancient Greek, believed all childhood was an opportunity to shape the whole child's future. State nurseries to foster a spirit of community were developed, including games, music, and drama. Progress to a monitored to identify gifted and add enrichment. Believed children came into the world with knowledge, and education allowed them to remember that knowledge, and believed girls should be educated too. Said not to talk of stories of war or adult themes because young children did not have the experience to understand them. Comenius is a Czech Republican philosopher. He was a refugee and served the people in exile. He wrote about education, developed some of the earliest materials for teaching children. It was in the late 1500s to 1670. Saw all people as equal and entitled to education. Believed that children up to the age of 6 should be taught in their home language. He saw education as taught in ascending grades, at each level exposing child to a widening circle of knowledge. He recognized the period birth to 6 was the highest importance for human development. Believed that language was a foundation for future learning. Design programs that began in infancy and progressed developmentally through future stages. Believed that education began first with the mother. Observed that learning occurred spontaneously in play. Believed that knowledge must mean something personally to the child, and that a child must learn from concrete or real things first before abstract. So Johann Henrik Pestalozzi was from Switzerland, a little bit later, 1746 to 1827. Believed all children have a right to education. You can see some similarities between these philosophers. Education could awaken the potential of each child. Believed the first year of life was the most important. Life experiences, concrete to abstract, were more important for child development. Believed children learn through self-discovery and could pace their own learning. Wanted to create a feeling of brotherhood or community. Said the way to know a child was to look into their eyes. Wished to make young children just affectionate, and considerate, that model citizen. Then we move on to Robert Owen, from Wales, 1771 to 1858. He's concerned with the condition of working families. A lot of Welsh families worked in mines, worked to reform child labor and create schools, improve the lives of children and stop child labor, created the infant school 3 years to 10. A lot of children worked after 10 years old, created nurturing and secure settings, did not believe in pressuring or punishing children into learning, believed that children would learn from natural consequences of their actions, and was not accepted in the United Kingdom, so he moved to the United States of America. And both Owen and Pestalozzi ideas had an influence on later United States educational practices. So Frederick Froebel from Germany, kind of overlaps, established the first kindergarten program, studied with Pestalozzi, envisioned a program as a transition between home and school for 4 years through 6-year-olds, a place where children or kinder were nurtured and protected like in a garden. So you get kindergarten. Created gifts for children to use, spoke of forms of life, gardens, animals, and house, forms of mathematics, shapes, block, and their relationship to each other, forms of beauty, color, shapes, harmony, and movement, and talked of occupations, which was similar to gifts for children to use. Children were not expected to sit still and learn in kindergartners. So now we move to John Dewey, Vermont in the United States. Part of the progressive education movement, evolved from the thinking of Rousseau, Pestalozzi, and Froebel, aimed at developing a child's full potential through observation, believed in the whole child. Children needed to be social to learn. Children have a natural curiosity, The school should reflect the life of the society around it and believe young children learn in the presence. What happened now? Make it real. Teachers should provide a carefully planned environment and curriculum, and this could prepare young children to be part of a democratic society. You can see it reflects back to some of the earlier philosophers. Bank Street, Reggio Emilia, these curriculum programs are aligned with John Dewey's philosophies. So now we move on to High Scope. And High Scope is an early childhood curriculum model that focuses on Vygotsky, who is a education theorist, and Jean Piaget, but on Vygotsky's social cultural theory, incorporating concepts related to scaffolding and children's active participation. It's also based on Jean Piaget. It was born out of the methods of the 1962 Perry preschool study. And the idea was that children would plan, do what they planned, and then review what they do. Children met and discussed plans for the day at the beginning of class. Children proceeded and did. And at the end of the day, children met again to discuss what happened in their day. Many questions, questions, and questions. So that inquiry method to build or scaffold learning, right? So Waldorf schools is an education curriculum based on the educational philosophy of Rudolf Steiner. Waldorf school education is holistic and aims to develop students' intellectual, artistic, and practical skills. It emphasizes creativity and imagination. Interested in science and spirituality. It emphasizes style-centered philosophies of the progressives. It believed the first 7 years of life is the most important. Learning that is in touch with nature. It's expensive and concerned with the mind, body, and spirit. So Maria Montessori is from Italy. And her idea is that children are naturally curious and capable of learning independently. And it's based on the idea that children's psychological development occurs through environmental interactions. Children should be taught in ways that are tailored to their unique needs and interests. And it's based on constructivism and the idea that children are born with tendencies and naturally want to acquire skills that lead to independence. Given the right environment, all children can learn. While both Montessori and Waldorf schools believe children need a connection to the environment, they are different in that Montessori focuses on real life experiences and Waldorf emphasizes the child's imagination and fantasy. In High Scope, the children's creative exploration is encouraged, and this sometimes leads to pretend play, while in Montessori, practical life work that relates to the real world is stressed. Mixed ages within one classroom, typically 2 to 6 year olds together. Tools are very specific and considered aesthetically pleasing and clean. Natural tools, a lot of wood, baskets, self-direction and self-discipline. Real world skills are learned. There's freedom within limits. There's order and repetition. Directors and directresses versus teachers. So Reggio Emilia is an educational philosophy based on the idea that children are capable of learning through many languages. It's based on the image of a child with strong potential for development, focuses on preserving cultural, language, and philosophy, and addresses the effects of colonialization. It's rooted in historic and indigenous teaching and philosophy. Created in Italy after World War II, many men had died and were concerned for the future. There was concern for the future of the children, right? And when you think about their philosophy built on maintaining historic and indigenous theory, you can understand after being part of World War II. All of the community is involved. Reggio Emilia focuses more on collaborative learning, whereas Montessori focuses on independent learning. Relied on observations, curriculum, engaged or emerged from the children, emergent curriculum. So if you hear emergent curriculum, this is a concept that came from Reggio Emilia. So it's almost like you observe what children are interested in, and that is where your curriculum is developed from. Learning is expressed in all forms. The environment is a teacher. So you set up your environment so children can interact within your classroom and learn specifically from what you have placed in the environment. Art and light play a big part. The environment is usually designed beautifully with a lot of windows, a lot of light. No real teachers, observers, and facilitators. Team of support people called pedagogista, continually connecting between family, child, and school. Art is big. Artillerista helps teachers support children to express knowledge through symbolic representation. So even though they don't have teachers, right, they do have teachers who support children to express their ideas and what they're learning through symbolic representation. So this is the poem that Reggio Emilia is based on. It's by Loris Malaguzzi. So I'm going to leave this with us. The child is made of 100. The child has 100 languages, 100 hands, 100 thoughts, 100 ways of thinking, of playing, of speaking. 100 always, 100 ways of listening, of marveling, of loving. 100 joys for singing and understanding. 100 worlds to discover, 100 worlds to invent, 100 worlds to dream. The child has 100 languages and 100 more, but they still 99. The school and the culture separate the head from the body. They tell the child to think without hands, to do without head, to listen and not to speak, to understand without joy, to love and to marvel, only at Easter and Christmas time. They tell the child to discover the world already there, and of the 100, they steal 99. They tell the child that work and play, reality and fantasy, science and imagination, sky and earth, reason and dream are things that do not belong together. And thus they tell the child that the 100 is not there. The child says, no way, the 100 is there. Thanks for joining me. See you online.